Corey, VC Channel. Corey, our expert on American record stores, who made such great videos from different record stores around America. You asked me what my favorite local record store are. And that one is pretty easy. I don't have any because we don't have any local record stores here in my city of Sundsvall. Unfortunately, it closed down maybe 2-3 years ago. The nearest one is in a city called Härnösand. I haven't visited that yet because it's a little bit away from where I live. My favorite one that I can remember in time during my life was a record store that shut down in 1988, I think, and that was during my teen years were a fantastic record store called Förlorade favoriter, Lost Favorites in English. It was a record store that sometimes they could have 25% sell out. They could have 50, 70. I remember one time they even had 90% sell out. Only to the next week they had normal prices again. So sometimes they could have really bizarre sellouts during 1 week, and it was party of shopping then. So it was a magnificent record store. But thank you, Corey, for asking questions. Dutch vinyl freak Sven, my young buddy in Holland. What do you think of Kraftwerk? I like Kraftwerk very much. They are synthesizer pioneers that I really, really like. As a guy who is grown up with synthesizer music, Kraftwerk was, of course, an artist I discovered pretty late. I think I heard the first real song by Kraftwerk in 1986 when I heard the music nonstop. That I always have enjoyed because they are so fantastic produced. I only one problem with Kraftwerk, and that is that the records are so expensive. I only have 2 Kraftwerk albums so far. Trans-Europe Express from 1977 and Man Machine from 1978. My favorite Kraftwerk album I also copied on the cassette so far. I hope to get the original one day, and that is Electric Cafe. Fantastic, really great album. Where were I? There. What do you buy more, CDs or vinyl records? I like them both. No matter in what format it is, I really don't care. The most important thing for me is that I have an original version of it. But then at the moment, I think it's close to 50-50. Depends on what I find at the moment at the thrift stores. And I think at this moment I found more. I found pretty much CDs, but I still think with the new second-hand store that I've shown that I've been visiting lately, it's been a little bit tip over the to vinyl. So I think it's a little more vinyl, but still it's pretty equal depending on what I find during this month. But I think vinyl overall is a little bit more. And which one I do prefer will be answered later on. Do you buy music online or in record store? And I buy in record stores. Not in record stores because we don't have any, but stores, thrift stores and flea markets and so on, second-hand stores. I buy only at one store at the internet, and that is the Swedish store Ginsa. I shown some live opening of JorgenS packages at my channel before. I do it maybe once a year, twice a year, or something like that. But that is the only time I buy it online. I love this digging in the boxes, and the feeling of finding that record that really I want to have. It is that is therapy. It's gives me relaxing. It's fantastic pleasure of digging in boxes, a feeling that I can't have by searching through the internet and clicking on a button. Even though I realize that it's there, it is. I get if I found it again, I got to have it no matter what. So thank you, Sven, for your questions. Fat Vinyl City. Where do you have the most luck finding records or CDs, or where do you buy from most often? I do a flea market tour here in Sundsvall once a month normally, and search through, see what have been coming in there. Those are what I find that I have most luck finding, or that I buy most from. Currently I have been having most luck at a second-hand store called Återbruket that is near the railway station here in Sundsvall. It's a flea market where people put in their stuff, and the owners of this sell them for them against a smaller profit. And there they have put in, many people have put in some records, and I managed to find, as you have seen, a lot of great 70s. And how often do you go out looking for music? I said it once a month, but then of course depending on time, because we have some record store, thrift stores and flea markets here in Sundsvall. So sometimes I may not be able to do it during one day. I have to spread it out during the month. But once a month I go to visit each store. So thank you, Fat City Vinyl, for your great questions. Fig Vinyl. We've been commenting a lot on my videos. How many albums are your largest vinyl collection by one artist, and who's the artist? I think we can take the artist first. I think it's a pretty close call between Depeche Mode and Pet Shop Boys. But I think I've counted right. I think I have more Depeche Mode albums, which means pretty much all of their official releases, at least new studio albums. I think I have around 17 or 18 Depeche Mode albums. So I think that one is the leader at the moment. But then of course Depeche Mode have been releasing records a little bit longer than Pet Shop Boys also. And number 2, what do you like most of your YouTube audience? And that is to have contact with them when they're leaving the comments, answering comments, doing contests, and having the chance of meeting them and talking with them and answering questions, because there's a social thing about it. I like pretty much the best. But then also, of course, to get tip of new music that I haven't been discovered before, especially now when I'm in the process of discovering more and more of the 70s. So that is I like the most. Do you think there is a rise in jazz appreciation, or is it on the decline? It's pretty interesting when it comes to jazz, because at least here in Sweden, jazz hasn't been really that over in ages. I don't think it has anywhere. But in Sweden it has been, it has gone from being during the 40s and 50s a mainstream thing that many listen to, until today when it is a little mostly for those who plays it, for musicians merely. Of course there are exceptions, but maybe that is why I have a hard time accepting the new jazz, free jazz, avant-garde jazz, because it's I don't play instruments, and it's too hard for me it's more oriented for people who knows about playing that kind of music. But to answer the question, I think that it is. I notice a little bit of rise for jazz sounds. You got to you got to divide it between classic jazz and modern jazz, because the classic jazz, big band, Duke Ellington, Benny Goodman, and so on, swing music, maybe early bebop, that one I don't see any rise in that. It is still considered by many, at least here in Sweden, as very dated and merely for old people. But the newer jazz, free jazz, avant-garde jazz, I notice a little bit of a little weak rise for that. So it's hard to say overall, but I say a little rise, but I don't see that it will be commercial in any time soon. And the jazz I listen to is still seen as pretty old, unfortunately. That is the problem, that no matter how much we evaluate, how much we develop jazz to a newer audience, still when you asking the people on the streets here in Sweden, name a jazz musician, they're going to say Louis Armstrong, they're going to say Duke Ellington or Glenn Miller, not these modern artists, that modern free jazz artists. I hate to name one of them because I don't want anyone to criticize that I don't know which genre they actually are in. I think that the newer jazz is going to have a very hard time becoming commercial or being so accepted by the regular listener of music, because it's very hard to get into it as a if you're not very much into it. That is my feeling. What do you think about art-made vinyl records? And with that, I first thought that you meant of framing vinyl sleeves. But then I understand you made those kind of art when they're making bowls out of vinyls, albums and so on. I know I should hate it. They're taking a kind of music and they had done some kind of a strange looking sculpture of it. But on the other hand, as I said, I should hate it, but some place I think is pretty charming. And it is some kind of a love still for the vinyl, because they, I guess they want to, there's a reason why they've chosen vinyl, and I don't think that those who have done it hasn't done it in order to humiliate the vinyl or something like that, because they feel that vinyl isn't worth to do anything more with. I think they've done it with some kind of a love for the vinyl. I actually do own one. I bought it at a flea market, at a second-hand store, only because I felt like it would be fun to own one. So I actually owning this little bowl made out of a religious album by a religious Swedish singer Pelle Karlsson. And I felt it was great to have one. So I bought it, and fun to have. Not something that I think is important, but it's a little charming in some form. I can't get away from the fact that I feel it's a little bit of cute and charming, and somewhere I think it is some kind of a love for the vinyl, and it's good to see some that kind of love. I remember working at a second-hand store before, where we sold the records for 10 cents. It was old records that no one wanted, and that typical flea market records that no one wanted. We sold them out for 10 cents. And there was one woman who came on every week and bought this, loaded with the records. And she bought it only to make these kind of bowls by them. So thank you, Fig Vinyl, for your great questions. John Bellamy, my British brother who had lived in Sweden, one of those who have given me one of the best VCLTs ever in form of the Dollar album and the Pet Shop Boys maxi, of course. You asked me which actor I would play in a movie about my life. First, an actor who's going to play me as an 11-year-old in 1986. That was tough because I suspect that you want a child actor, and I don't know that many child actors. Not that would be suitable. I was thinking of my what's his name, Culkin, the Home Alone guy, but no. But then I realized there's one guy who maybe would be fitting, that I feel like it would be interesting, and that is Omri Katz. I wonder, who is Omri Katz? Is the guy who played the young John Ross in the Dallas series in the 80s. He was a pretty good child actor who worked very well in his role, and I thought that he would be pretty good at playing me as a nerdy, little naive 11-year-old buying my first records. Then you want to know which actor who's going to play me today. As an adult. That one was very tough. Am I going to go for my look? Or am I going to go for the one that feel would be right in when you look back and what kind of characters you have played and so on previously? There are some Swedish actors that I felt would be pretty good, like Johan Ulveson would be pretty good, although he has passed his 60s. So I felt like, why not? Tobey Maguire. He and I are about the same age. He plays Spider-Man, Peter Parker. I feel like maybe he would be pretty good. He did that very good. I think he was maybe pretty suitable. Don't ask me why. I just felt like he would be suitable. Then we have me and Mr. Mayo, Joe, who is a guy that I follow regularly. A guy that I think it was one of the first one of the first that I actually commented on during my stay here at the vinyl community, because he had a contest just right after I have been doing my first video. You asked what is your most cherished album if you could only have one. Easy. Alphaville, Forever Young. Is not only is it fantastic made, it is so magnificent produced and awesome synth pop. It also is childhood memory deluxe. It's an album that goes right in my heart when I listen to it, because it's it is beautiful, and it's also very, very nostalgic. List your top 5 favorite artists of all decades. That one was pretty tough, but number one, of course, Depeche Mode. It's a band that never have done a really bad album. All of their albums are so fantastic. Number 2 is jazz pianist Lenny Tristano. Fantastic pianist that has come up with something new, mixed it with something traditional, and managed to do it with so fantastic and sounds so fresh and sounds so unique. Number 3 is my favorite little soul and electro queen, Robin. Also have, I think I have all her albums so far. Her voice is just magnificent, and she always do all that she sings makes the song sound so great. She has sung so many different styles, and still, no matter what she does, it sounds fantastic. Level 42, I take as number 4. One of the funkiest bands ever, that have been with me ever since childhood, and I have all of their albums as well, with exception for one EP that I released just previously. And number 5, Chicago, who has been a surprise lately that I've been listening a lot to. So, and fantastic, also one of the best, funkiest bands ever. So those are my top 5 favorite artists of all time. Name one artist or group that you dislike that everyone seems to love. That one was hard to choose one because there are so many. There are actually 2 that I always been with me as the 2 most overrated bands ever. But if I'm going to choose one of them, it is both Metallica and AC/DC. But if I'm going to choose one of them, I still choose AC/DC. Right now, I may be changing that, but I have hard time listening to AC/DC, and right now I hear AC/DC for people talking about AC/DC everywhere, and I feel like I never understood what is great about a band who does this kind of pub heavy metals that you're supposed to just yell along with, together with a singer. Well, he's not singing anymore. He's quit the band, but that sounds like a crow with the flu. So I will never understand what's great about AC/DC, but I'm not a rock and roller, so other likes it, good for them, but I have a hard time listening to them. And the same goes with Metallica, that I really have a hard time listening to. I never liked James Hetfield's voice. I never liked the depressive heavy metal. I can't stand it. So Joe, thank you very much for participating and asking these questions. My vinyl bar, my Finnish buddy Jarkko. My single buddy, my 7-inch buddy. Can you name your dearest 7-inch single and CD maxi single? We're starting with CD maxi single. I have lots, so it was pretty hard. But I think my dearest one is this Robin single, the Rakamuni EP, because it's pretty special. First of all, it's not released officially in Sweden. I read that this was actually a foreign release, and it's great, and it's very special to have. When it comes to vinyl singles, it was very, very even harder. Because if you have about 4,000 vinyl singles, I'm going to pick out one. uh, but I think that the one that I right now treasure the most are uh, these jukebox singles from the 90s on vinyl that I found at a thrift store. These are singles that normally are in many cases just released on CD single, but for jukeboxes only are released on vinyl, and I managed to find them. So this one I treasure very, very high, but wanted to pick out one of them, and then I think it is this great. I know you like Roxette, Jarko, so this will please you. It is for jukeboxes only release of Sleeping in My Car from 1994 with yellow vinyl. And on the side is The Look Unplugged. So this one is very special to me. Do you wish you could play some musical instrument, and if so, what would it be? I've given up any tries of playing an instrument. If I do one, I really wish I could play the piano. I thought once that I could. I took piano lessons, and I also taken lessons on an electric keyboard. And the problem is that I don't have the patience to sit and struggle and learn and play the same scales over and over and over again. And I don't have the coordinations of coordinate the hands playing different. They want to go in the same direction, so I've given up that. One interesting memory that comes to me is once upon a time I took piano lessons at a church when I think it was around 1986 also. And I play the scales, and Otto, I talked about, my friend who taught me to like jazz. He's a piano player, magnificent piano player, way, way, way better than I ever would be, even back then. And I thought that I could, if he could, so could I. So when I went twice to that piano lesson and taught me how to play the scale, I thought, oh, now I'm ready. So I picked out some notes of a piano sonata by Franz Schubert. Now this, if this is that easy, I could play this also. And I realized that, hey, this was very hard. Maybe I don't have what it takes to play the piano, and I gave up. So I have realized that my musical interest is by records and knowing about music facts. But it would be fun to play piano. I can actually play one song on piano. I can play Oh When the Saints Go Marching In. I had done it once when I was 11 years old at school. So that's the only song that I can play at piano. So thank you very much, Jarko, for your great questions.